I just, maybe you ought to see what I, because I furnished it. I didn't know what to put down.
Well,
You think you ought to-
hearsay stuff is very valuable. We've had so many fragments to fill in gaps in stories.
Did you ever see her?
Mrs. Fraser?
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. And then, of course, at this banquet.
Yeah.
And then I would have, but because she and Mrs. Knighton were about the same age, and they were good friends, so I probably did see her, but she wouldn't have meant any more to me than any other elderly person like that, because at that time, I don't think I really particularly connected her up with being Becky Thatcher. I mean, I didn't think about it.
Now, this picture shows your husband as of the chamber, president of the Chamber of Commerce.
That's the reason that I kept the,
Yes.
kept the picture.
And it's very good, a very good picture, good clear picture of all of the.
And very good in Morris Anderson.
It's excellent of Morris
Mr.
Anderson.
Brady, I didn't know, so, but I assumed that it was.
Well, he lived in Heidelberg, and we came in for the dinner. I have found a newspaper account of this dinner, and also Harry Scheidker was present at this dinner.
Yes.
And he told us a little bit about the dinner, and the occasion was that she was retiring, I believe, as matron. And Hallie Margaret Fisher told me this was probably taken about 1922. when she
No,
was there.
this was taken in 1925.
Okay.
Because
all right.
Milton was,
It's even later.
yes, and of course he knew her. And
When was he?
in 1925. That's the reason I know.
All right, that's when it.
There's no question about it.
All right,
Because
fine.
we were married in June of 1925. But I don't know what date the Chamber of Commerce banquet was. You know, I don't know, because I just know it was 1925.
It was 1925. That's what Harry Scheidker said.
And of course, Harry at that time would have been, well, say, around his 30s. So he would, even then, have been very knowledgeable and have remembered everything.
Secretary of Chamber of Commerce.
Was he at that time? Because he and Milton were such good friends. And so that, I mean, he would be a good one that would remember about this banquet. Now, I only remember, just because Milton was president, I went to because we went to all of the Chamber of Commerce banquets. That was just the thing that one did.
Yeah.
Was this one at the Mark Twain Hotel?
No, this one I think was at the YMCA.
At the YMCA?
That's the one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Morris Anderson was there. at the-
Yeah, yes.
Morris
He
Anderson.
was, well, it says what he was.
Well, let's see, he was president of the Mark Twain Home Board. He was mayor at the time. is what
Mayor.
this says.
That's it.
Yeah.
I knew there was
Mayor,
something.
all right. Do you remember anything about her appearance, how she looked, or how she was dressed?
About like this. I remember it. That's the way I remember. Typically.
And Brady beat
Now, you see, the details, what I do remember, both Milton and Mrs. Fraser were very nervous about having to use the microphone. And so that they kind of experimented. That was funny to see them doing it, because they were really very unhappy about having to do it.
Was the microphone hooked up to a radio at the time?
Oh, I don't remember anything like this.
Probably was. That's probably what made them nervous.
Oh, well, they never had done it. Now, Milton had never done that before. And he wasn't too good at that sort of thing anyway. And he just, he dreaded it. And so when they got down there together, they kind of joked about it because, as I say, the Frasers and the Knighton lived in the same neighborhood, around Bird and Fifth Street. So that Mrs. Fraser and Milton were pretty good friends. But, and that was funny, really, when they were trying to adjust. And I think I said that, well, it was funny.
Tell us a little bit about Mr. Knight. Tell us about his business, how you met him, if you would.
Oh, we just grew up together. You know, it was a small town then. And of course, he was older than I. And I was so pleased to have one of the older boys date me, take me to the Paladins and things like that. I thought that was very fine. And so it just started that way. It was
The Paladin, where was the Paladin?
the Paladins they were very, well, they were given, you know, that thing song. Yeah. Well, in the block between 5th and 6th. Of course, now, let's see, is that building still there? But it was on the 3rd, they were given on the 3rd floor, the Lavina Club. You remember what the Lavina,
yes.
you heard, I'm sure, heard the Lavina Club. The Lavina, and the Paladins were very select dances. Always properly chaperoned and all of that, but it was quite exciting to go to a Paladin, especially if you were young, as I was at that time. Later on, it was just one of the things that you did, so it didn't make that impression. But when Noel and I were first dating, as we call it now, that was quite an event for me.
The building is the Eagles Lodge now, isn't it? Is that
Probably
the same
is.
building? I believe
It is. Mm-hmm.
That was a fine club, according to all
Oh,
we
it
could
was.
read about.
It definitely was.
Could you walk to the dances, or did he come for you in a carriage?
Well,
Did he have a car?
remember we had a big closed carriage, so I think there were four of us, four sisters, and we were popular because we always had a carriage to take our well, that's the truth.
Yes, that's true.
It really did make a difference because our driver, our coachman, would probably stop for them, or sometimes they would come up ahead of time. But we always drove to the dances or any place at night in the carriage.
If I'd have been available at that time, I think I would have
Oh,
asked
you'd have
you
been
for a
popular.
date.
Well, I realize now that it did make a difference because at that time the boys would have to, they either walked or they would get what we call a hack, you know, at a public liver stable. And maybe two would go together, and because they would carry 4 people. And that is the way a lot of the girls got to their dances.
Now, you would have been living over next door at that time in
Oh,
Rockford?
yes. See, I lived there since 1900.
And there was if I remember, the horses, the stables were down on the lower.
But we did not keep them down there. That was what it was originally. So it was there when this house was over there. It was part of this house. But you see, this at that time, in fact, down at the museum, there are records in the papers of this house when it was built, and it was spoken of as being quite an unusual house, very beautiful. So that when my father bought all of this 3 acres, it was too good a house not to use. So that's why he had it built, brought over here. But the stable was still there, and that was left. But we used it, and it was supposed to be used for the horses at first, but it was not practical. The public stables, livery stables downtown, were much more satisfactory. They had better care. The horses had better care. We had our own coachman, and all you did really was go to the telephone, like you could order a taxi now, and just call the livery stable to send the horses out. And if Father was going to drive, which he very often did, we would say, you know, that he would drive, so that they would send a pony up, and then whoever brought the carriage up would go back to the stable on the pony. But if our driver was going to drive, why, that was not necessary. But everybody wonders about that, so that's the reason I mentioned it, because you wonder how, when people had their horses delivered, what happened to the people that, whoever brought them up, but they had a horse, that they,
Tied on
a
the
pony
back.
that was tied on, and then they just rode back on the pony.
That's interesting.
Things like that, that I would never have thought of, but that's, people ask
Now,
about that.
your carriage was kept down there too.
All of the, yes, now in the winter, you see, we had a couple of sleighs, and we had this big carriage that we used at night and in the winter. And then Mother had what was called a broom. She didn't use it very much, but it was a beautiful, small, closed carriage, smaller. And then all of those were in the winter. See, they were kept up in the stable. And in the summer, of course, we just used the surrey, and maybe I think we had a couple of buggies, and then we girls had a runabout, I believe we called them. Just a small thing with one horse. My father was very particular about his horses, and always had them beautifully matched, the pair. And they were always bobbing to prints, regardless. If one died, another one came back that looked just like him and had that same name. And he liked to drive himself, which he often did. And so
Did you drive?
They got,
Did you ever get to drive yourself?
oh, sure.
Wasn't it fun?
Yeah.
Right
But-
horseback,
Yes, but not well. I was,
side saddle.
no, I mean, oh, no. No, I did not.
Okay.
No, I just later on, really. In fact, I rode more after I was married and didn't have my own horse then. Some of us rented horses. But it was great fun. But,
Other aspects of life in the house growing up there, special.
well, of course, wherever you grow up just seemed perfectly natural at the time. Now, of course, I realize how different it was. But it was different then. There's no question about it, regardless of whether you lived there or where. It was different. I mean, there was you were chaperoned every place. And of course, just being 4 girls, we just grew up more with girls. We didn't play with boys as much as girls do now. We did, but the ones we played with were right here in the neighborhood, and there were probably 5 or 6 boys, but my parents knew their parents, and that made a difference. They wanted to know where we were and with whom we were. Well, now, you never hear of anything like that. At least I don't.
I think you're right.
They call that
Yes, well,
freedom.
surely, that kind of life, why, a person would be, I don't think it would work. It wouldn't be necessary anyway.
Ms. Knighton, did you ever have any classes in the schoolroom upstairs?
Not too many. You see, when the house was built, the plans included a school, because down on Fifth Street we had this governess, a French governess, and it was working out beautifully. And then we had our schoolroom. So that, of course, for this house, it was assumed that we would. Well, by that time, we were getting a little bit too old for that, and especially my older sister was, in fact, we all wanted to go right over here to Central School.
Oh, yes.
So that our schoolroom, we had it, and we were supposed to study up there. But our French governess, I think she, I don't think she understood the United States too well. And she was a very attractive young person, Lucy Poisson. And but she taught us, French. And it would have been nice had she wanted to stay, but I think it worked out. Everyone was happier.
What was her name?
poisson, Poisson, fish. Is the word.
Sounds better in French.
Yeah.
What about that tower on the top, that little viewing?
Well, that was just,
you go
we
up
just
there
call that, the observatory.
to watch
But,
the river and stuff?
well, no, we went up there, we had parties up on the roof all the time. See, there were banisters railing all around the place, and there was a floor. So that we had a lot of parties up there.
Like the Chinese lanterns up and all that stuff?
Not up there. We had them down. I guess maybe there was too much trouble to get them. At least I don't remember them up there. But I do remember, and one of the weddings over there was just, there were dozens and dozens of these kind of, rose-colored lanterns. Just beautiful living. And then, of course, for years after that, we'd go up on 4th of July, because then the fireworks all over Hannibal.
Be a nice place yet to watch fireworks up there.
Well, in fact, a few years, not too many years ago, when I had one of my nephews visiting, we went up there. And then another time we went up there when this boy was here, was when there was something eclipsed. I mean, it was something, I know we went over there, I think it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and went up on the roof for some occasion like that.
I wonder if Helen somewhere it was passing his way. And of course that was sort of a sign between the parties.
Wasn't that about 37 or something? But it just, of course, for so many years, even after the house was vacant, you see, we were over there. In fact, I had never really moved away because it was just a matter of bringing what I needed after I came here, just after we were married. And so I only brought over what I wanted. Everything else was left with me. And it still was when they bought off here. One room was full of my clothes and just things like that.
Did the children sneak in? I got
Yes.
the impression. Yet there was no vandalism.
The vandalism was why we had to find it.
But the
Yes.
lamps were all intact according to the tour guide, right?
I think-
That none of the lamps were destroyed. And all the wallpapers
That's the
original.
amazing thing. Because I felt just like a police officer, because I would go over there practically every day. I was deeply concerned. And we tried everything. We had watchmen. We finally had a bell that came over here. I mean, we tried everything. It didn't work because they were doing so much damage. And I'd be over here, and I would see them lighting matches up in my mother's room. That's what we lived. And they were, of course, the school, and the fact that I had left so many things over there gave the impression, or at least the people thought, oh, there's jewels. What I had left were just costume jewelry, nothing valuable. But for people, children getting in. And then I had a lot of musical instruments. They took all of those, and they took just everything. In fact, one time I went over there, and the front room that has a big red carpet on it, which it had originally, they had taken that carpet up and had it down on these front steps. They'd gotten it that far, and then, some stuff. But they took everything. And, of course, it was because we left so much in there for them to take. But I brought over here what I could use. And, of course, my sisters all took everything that they could use. We disposed of everything. But, I mean, they were just little things that you wouldn't think too much about. But that's what the vandalism was, getting those things. And that's why they would try to get in it. One door was locked where I had my things. That was a mistake. But see, they felt there was something in that room. And so they did a lot of damage on that particular door. And then some of the carving around the mantels. You can see where they had tried. It looks as if there might be a little secret panel. And it's tried to get in there thinking that's where it is. So you understand all of that now, but at the time, it was so frustrating because there wasn't anything to do about it. So that's why we finally decided something had to be done, and this was a very happy solution for us.
It certainly has proven that.
Very gratifying.
Made a lot of people happy.
Well, really, I'm amazed even now. Of course, during the tourist season, it's understandable. But even now, busloads, they just come, a lot of them.
What year did you say you were in?
Beg pardon?
What year did you?
25.
25.
Mhm.
How old were you when your folks moved from Fifth Street up here, when they actually moved?
We were 6, 8, 10, and 12. I was 10. That is why, you see, when Mark Twain was here, I was 10.
Do you recall much about Mark Twain's being here?
I put that down in my little, what I thought I was going to say.
Well, tell us about it.
You're the only person I've ever spoken to who actually had
Well,
this
that's
sighting
true.
for me.
That's true. I was thinking of people that would have, in 1925, that would have, remembered Mrs. Fraser. I forgot that's why really, when the tourists come over and see me working out in the yard, well, you know how I look when I'm working in the yard. I just look ridiculous. Usually in the summer I have a big hat, anyway, and in the tour that they give over there, sometimes they will say, they always want to know the personal things. I don't know why they do, but tourists do want, because they feel that's more of a home than it isn't a museum, of course, definitely. It's just a home. And so they want to know, if any of us are living, then when they say, yes, that's Mrs. Knighton right out there working in the yard. And then, of course, also the fact that I probably am one of the few left that remember much. Because the only way they could have, I think there was someone that's about my age, I don't know that she's still living, but she was a member of I think a Baptist, I think Mark Twain must have spoken down at the Baptist church, maybe did you ever hear it?
No, I think he went to Methodist.
Well, this was somewhere where he may have given a talk, because I know when it was in the paper or someplace that I was, the only one. She said, well, don't you, and I do remember her, by name, I remember, and she would have been about my age. And she could easily have been in this Sunday school, but I remember she said the Baptist church. Who was it? I don't know. Oh, her name was Leota Ayres. Leota Ayres was her name. The reason I remember because she was a cousin of one of my friends, and we probably went to school together. But for some reason, I remembered that name, and I remember what she looked like. Fortunately, when she called me, because 9 out of 10 people would say they remember me. I had to think. But I did. And she said something about the Sunday school that he had been. But you see, that a person would have to be pretty old. I was 10 there in 89. So you see, a person that would have remembered him would have to be pretty much old.
Primarily your memory that stands out, having met him, the physical presence of him, sound of his voice, recall it to that.
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because now I'm saying probably what I put in this
I
silly
prefer to hear it off the cuff anyway.
This is better. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm doing whatever I'm supposed to. No, I do remember, and I think that probably I knew he was someone very important, or I wouldn't have been allowed downstairs. See, they had a lot of parties over there, big parties, and the fact that probably my parents wanted me and the other girls, although a couple of them were away at the time. And one of them just remember peering over the banisters. She wasn't allowed to go down. So that's all she remembered. But I remember that the people crowded around him, wanting to shake his hand. And the reason I think that I do remember, my father had a platform built to put at the foot of the little steps, so that that could see over the people. To me, I was just standing there looking up at him, and I still think of him as being a very tall man, which of course he was, but on this platform. And he had a big gold watch with a chain, and I can just remember him kind of, fooling with that. And I don't really, he talked to me, and he was very friendly. I think he was friendly with everyone. But I think probably the fact that I was one of the daughters. I don't really remember much. I think he probably said, which one are you, what's your age, that kind of talk. Because I know we didn't talk anything very, nothing that I would remember. But I remember definitely.
Was he dressed in white that night?
That's what everyone asks. I don't know. I'm assuming he did, because that's the only way I ever think of it. But that's where I would not be too sure of myself, because why would I have ever remembered whether that was dressed in white or pink?
What about the voice quality? Did you remind you, did he sing a slow talking?
Well, yes.
Volley,
Yes, he was one, yes. Yeah, I remember that. But this is what he said. One thing I remember that really was funny, that made quite an impression on me. And you see, what I was trying to think was whether Mrs. Fraser was there, but I don't remember her, but she obviously would have been there. The one I remember the most is Mrs. Garth. And she used this long ear trumpet. One of the long ones. And after the lecture talk, some of the people, I don't know who it was that was invited into the dining room, and there are those window seats in the dining room, and Mrs. Garth was sitting on one. And I remember Mark coming in, and he just shrieking at her, trying to talk to her, and here she'd, she absolutely, of course she couldn't hear, and he would keep repeating. Now, whether he was trying to tell her a funny story, or whether he was just saying, how do you do, I don't know. But that made such an impression on me. But it was because of this long ear trumpet.
His old friend, Garth's wife.
Yes, she was Helen Knighton, and she was one of his playmates, right? Yes.
Yeah, he was the one he stole gingerbread from.
Yes.
Yeah, he said she was a baker's daughter.
No, I don't know.
I know she didn't
Could
bring
be,
it.
but she was one of his playmates because that's mentioned. But I heard about her.
Well, see, of course, I knew her because down on Fifth Street before we moved to Rockford. We were neighbors, just, almost across the street. And so that, I knew Mrs. Garth, and but that probably is why I remember so well that, and he tried to talk to her.
Did someone at the Mark Twain, one night at the Holiday Inn, when you were there, they said you played the piano for him. Was that true?
I don't think I did, because since we've had the Holiday, really, I haven't been playing too much.
No,
I used to
meant-
play all the time, but I doubt if I would have done that out there.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, one night I was there at a party, and
Mark
you were
Twain.
there.
Oh. Mark Twain.
And Mr. Bob Clayton, I think, said that you played the piano when Mark Twain was here.
I was 10 years old, and I didn't play very well. Bob Clayton, young
Yeah,
Bob.
yes.
I think of him as young Bob
Yeah.
because
Yes,
of course,
yes, he's dead.
well, wonder, maybe he was, of course I used to sing all the time, but really at 10 years old age, I wasn't doing much of that.
Yes, well, that's what I wanted.
Mhm.
I thought maybe he was just saying that.
I think he was just making good stuff.
Because it was, he resented you and said that you.
Oh, that was out at, oh, well, of course he was making,
birthday. And he
surely,
was
when
dressed
as he, as a friend, as a playmate of Mark Twain's
Yeah.
that night. That was, well, of course everybody knew because that was just not too many years ago. Well, I was hardly a playmate of Mark Twain. No, I understand that. Yes, because he said all kinds of things. That night. I mean, it was, but that was part of his talk.
Yes.
That was
Well, I thought
That's right, that-
maybe you did play piano for him.
no. I
I've
didn't.
always meant to ask you
Mhm.
whether he was joking or
Oh, he was joking. I remember that was out, when I think of the Holiday Inn, I don't really think of that room where they have the parties. I was thinking just of the regular
Yeah.
dining room, you know. Oh, no, that was, I think I was for the Belle of the Ball that
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
That year. There was something about it.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I know George Pace had talked me into that. Yeah, I remember that. And of course, I think Bob did, you know, say all kinds of things like that.
Now back to the rock. Which room were you married?
Oh, out on the porch.
You were married on
Yes, out on the porch. See, the first two weddings, my older sister, that was the big wedding. And it was just a gorgeous wedding, and that was on the stair landing. And it was beautiful. And the lighting was on the outside of the stained glass window. And it was very lovely, and a big wedding. And that was in the fall. And then my sister, the next sister, was married in June, and I was out on the porch, but that was a very elaborate June wedding. That's when they had all the lanterns and everything. That's a big wedding. And I remember my grandmother said, now 2 weddings in a town the size of Hannibal is enough. I think 2 big weddings. But those were the 2 really big weddings. And of course I was married after my father died. So that was just a small wedding out on the porch.
When you were 10 and moved up to Rockwood,
Well, I moved up there at 8. We were 6, 8, 10, and 12. I was the 8th one.
when that porch went almost around the
Oh,
building.
yes.
Did you girls play on that porch?
We lived on that porch. You see, really, there were vines that practically enclosed the east section of it. See, it extended from the porte cochere, a wide porch, all the way around with furniture. And these vines made it shady, cool, and very secluded, but then it would be secluded up there anyway. And then that extended over to the edge of this front that they have now. Then there was a big open space with the French doors come out of the music room right onto this open space. And we used that in the evening and this west porch. But, we just practically lived out on but on the other side where it was shady and cool. Then, of course, with the porch all the way around it, that gave us a second balcony all upstairs.
Yes.
See, that went all the way around. So it really made quite a difference in the general effect of the house.
Yes.
Now, of course, I'm getting used to it, and it's perfectly all right for everyone that doesn't remember it the other way.
On my graduation from the 9th grade, my parents were down in southern Missouri. I was staying with an elderly lady, Mrs. Gray, Lillian but I never did get in the building. I was not one that got in the building. But I
I
did.
bet you're the only one left in civilization that didn't. I think when I see a little boy now, I think, oh my goodness, what's he going to do? Oh, because they did so much, and they would be children of my friends too that were doing it. Now realize, quite a few within years have been back and in talking. They said now that they're grown, they have their own homes, and how they regret the vandalism and the things that they did. Because most of the boys, a lot of them say, "Oh no, I never was up there," but I'm not too sure.
Well, I never even heard the version that they went up and took a little piece off of the map upstairs. One of the guides had that as a story.
I'm sorry, but some of the guys, they make a good story. I learned things too. Now I'm learning whatever you're telling me about something off. You're learning. What they did, though, speaking of maps, up in that room study, and there's a wall frame, farm maps.
Yes.
And at that time, that was full of good maps, old, and they did tear all those maps.
Well, the version that this guy told was that the boy, in order to prove that he wasn't a chicken, he was a cow,
Oh, well.
had to go up and tear a little piece off of one of those maps. So that was the evidence when he came out. He had a piece of the map.
Well, I think that's a good story.
Haunted house.
Yeah, oh,
I
haunted
think
house.
that's what Laura Winkler said.
Oh,
When I was a girl up Stella Winkler's daughter, she was living in California.
Oh, yes.
What year did your father die?
1920.
1924. And your mother died what?
1937.
Did she live here with you in this house?
You see, this really, it's two apartments. See, when we moved over here, when Father died, we had this made. This was originally just, one house. And it was made into the apartments for my mother and Milton. And we moved right over it when we came back from our wedding trip. And that was late in June.
Well, one thing about your father, now he was in the lumber business.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the Crookshank Lumber Company.
Well, that was, you see, my father was married twice, and his son, one of his sons, ran that business, and that's who you remember, C.A. Crookshank.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But now, the question in my mind, your father, would he have had a sawmill here?
I don't remember a sawmill.
Or,
His lumber yards were all down, because I know when we lived down on 5th Street, that was at the very end, and the idea of us crossing the track was just what you didn't do, but I did. And I know I crossed the track, which was right below,
yes.
It drops right down at 5th Street. The other streets kind of slope down, but that drops. We called it the deep cut, and that's where we played. But as far as going down on the tracks, but I remember of crossing those tracks to Father's office, which was down there. And then he did have another office out on Glendale Avenue. I mean, I think he had several, but I was pretty young then. That didn't make too much of an impression on me. But that is where the yard. But I don't remember sawmill. A lot of his business, I think he was on a wholesaler. But as I say, at that age, 8 years old, I don't believe I gave that much thought. I just remember school, when you sign everything, your name, and what your father's business is, and which I suppose they still do. But I remember I was retired. That's what I can remember now.
From the standpoint of participating in things in
of course, we had the horses and Surrey, because that would be in the summer. But the elephants, the horses, you know, I think all horses are afraid of elephants. I mean, I think that's just an accepted fact. But I know we would have to get out, say, we'd be down on say, 5th Street. And, of course, the parade would come by on Broadway. And then we would get out of the Surrey so that the coachman could drive the horses around to get away from the elephants. Because they couldn't have stood that close to the parade.
I have a funny question to ask you. Someplace, someone told me that your family used to go to Spalding for picnics.
No, we really didn't. Most everyone else did, but I don't really remember that too much.
I wondered because
No.
I don't know who told me that.
Well, it would sound as if some of we girls could. Now, of course, my parents would never anything like that. They just didn't do that. But a lot of people did go out to Spalding Springs. But I don't know. I just don't remember why.
I just wondered because I had heard this from somebody else talking about Spalding. Told me to ask you something.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people did, and it was very popular and fun. But
you remember one day you showed me a picture of the flower, that famous flower bed.
oh yes, with the horses, the flower.
And you girls here.
Yes.
Yes, that was a great.
Oh, that I just prized that. But it is so. Well, I mean, it's something I'm very.
I keep coming back to your father. Tell us about him. Now, we know a little bit about his business and some of his successes, but from
Well, I know nothing about his business. I know that he was a marvelous father, and he had his disposition was beautiful. I don't remember ever. Now, this sounds silly. I don't remember ever seeing him mad or cross. Even with, I suppose my mother did all of the correcting and everything, because as far as we girls were concerned, we must have been just perfect. But what I mean is now I don't know anything about him in a business way or with older people. I only know that as a father he was just wonderful.
Did he play with you? Do you remember?
Not the way fathers do now.
Sing? Did he sing?
No.
Did he sing?
Mm-mm. No, mother was a musician. No, I think he knew 1 or 2 songs and that he would sing. No, he was not musical. But he supported all the musical things here in Hannibal because of my mother, because she was very musical.
Well, I think that was rather typical at the time, but would he read to you?
Well, it's funny now when you're asking those questions, he didn't really do things too much like that. He was always there. He was always taking us, or he was always doing something, I suppose. He was just...
Took you places.
Yes, and of course, it's kind of hard to
He
say.
wasn't, apparently he wasn't too strict.
No, maybe that's why I think he was so wonderful. No, because he probably thought everything we did was just perfect. No, I don't remember it. And he didn't. I know fathers now, the ones that I know. I mean, they do more things. But
When he became ill and died, was he ill a long time?
no, and he never was. He was not well. He had a heart condition, but he always. Oh, I think he went down to the bank every day, and he. The morning that he died. I mean, he had dressed, and he. Of course, he was not well, because I remember one evening, he was not well, and he was, I guess, delirious or something. but he was talking about Amos J. Stillwell. Now, you know who I'm talking about. But of course, Amos J. would have had to be older than my father, but he was talking about Amos J. coming down the river with logs, or I don't know. So, I mean, but as far as he was never an invalid.
Were you ever in Mark Twain's cave?
Oh, yes. I'm afraid I was, but not, it was just the little boys, you know, at my age that went down to in the cave, and oh, yes, and then, of course, over a period of years, I've taken a lot of people through that cave. I'm never going to go again, I know that.
Have you been through it recently?
No.
You know they put indirect lighting in the cave, and it's really beautiful. Now, of course, when we used to go in with flashlights and torches,
Yes, that's the way I remember.
it was really different, but they did have direct lighting, just a cord hanging down, and they've hidden all of those so that you don't see the bulbs. You just get an indirect.
Oh, well, that's
and
nice.
it's really nice now.
Yes, I've heard that it is just as nice as it can be, but that still isn't going to bring me back.
Did you ever ride Lover's Leap?
I never did ride up in what?
In a wagon or a carriage?
Oh, I've been up on Lover's. I guess I must have ridden up because I used to go up there. Well, I think we used to just walk up.
I see.
Years ago, I haven't been up. Well, no, I did go up not too many years ago when we drove, but I remember the road was terrible. But we did drive. But
Worse now.
I'm thinking of it years ago.
Yes. Well, the reason I asked you the question, we've been interested in the old road that did go up from the north side, you see, from the town side. There was an old road that went up there, and there were...
Oh, yeah, that is probably what I would have remembered. Mm-hmm. Yes, I don't remember. Well, no, I do, because I used to take, up until the last few years, long walks. I mean, every afternoon. I
Sorry.
walked and
What's that about you? Just turned yourself off. I was wondering if you could talk about it.
oh, yes. How about you just going into this one room right here where you see the bed, and then you'll see one more door, and I think you can find where you're going to want to go.
Okay, that's good.
I believe that's easier than to try to go. There is another entrance on the hall, but I think this is a little bit easier to direct. Say, is this? Is that going?
Yes, it is. It is. Oh, look.
I don't like this.
Does that bother
Okay,
you?
okay.
We like it. It'll never go anyway.
No, we're interested. I think Roberta probably told you what we're going to do with our kids.
Well, something about
I'm going to take and write up back
Yes,
about
right.
your father and so
Mhm.
forth, and put it in the museum. And then when we're gone, it'll be in the museum.
We're going to give these tapes after we're gone to the museum. We don't plan to
Yeah.
publish anything.
No,
well, I
it's
just,
not going to be published again.
no, I remember.
He's just using it for ideas.
Mhm.
Next would be illegal to publish
Yes,
anything.
sure. It
Uh-huh.
would be. What about the river? Now, you mentioned that you went to dinner about dancing. Did you go on steamboat excursion?
Oh, yes. My mother didn't approve of it. She didn't approve of a lot of things. But we did, and that was great fun. And really, as we were old, that was, of course, most of those were when we were older. When we were little, all that would have been about the time of the Flying Eagle, when we were little. And we went on Sunday school excursions to Quincy, and we went on all of them.
Well, when the Flying Eagle actually sunk, did you know any of the people that drowned on that?
Oh, yes. Of course, we were on the boat. We were all on the boat. We
Were
were all
you
on
on
the
the
boat.
boat?
Oh, yes.
You were on the boat?
On the boat.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. Yes, we were on the boat. And in fact, my mother, she was afraid of water, really. And she would never go on the boats. But that morning, you see, it was given by, I think it was the Methodist Sunday school. And a member of that, Sally Collette, Sade Conlett at that time, came up and just begged my mother and my older sister to take us. So she weakened, and she took all four of us on the boat. She had never been on one. So she took us. And when it hit the bridge, my mother and my older sister and I got off in a skiff. And my other sisters got off on the bridge. They climbed up on the bridge, and they got up there. So there was no problem. But one of the members, Roberta Kurtz, was drowned. And her mother was on. And she came over in the same boat that we were in. So I remember that.
The little skiff.
In a little skiff, yeah. You see, people from the shore came over. And I remember that because Roberta and I were very close friends. She was my age. And Lonnaby, the one that died, was, say, just a few years older. But she was one of the girls that, that we all knew. And then Harry Eichenberger, everyone knew. I didn't. He was older than I, so I really didn't know. So, oh yes, we all, and
well, the Flying Eagle had a bar.
Yes.
Apparently on one side of it.
Well, I remember because I was on either the boat or the barge just before it separated. I don't remember what I was. Evidently, I was on the side that didn't go down. And that, of course, which side would have had the wheel? No, the barge. The barge was just there for at night for the dancing, and that was just. But one thing I remember, and everybody else remembers, my mother, they had just an upright piano, and whoever was directing traffic would say, go over to the other side of the barge would tip and get us all over on one side. So I can remember Mother taking hold of the piano and pushing it over to the side where he wanted the weight.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the barge.
That was the barge.
Because that would have been what you were on.
Well,
would it have been?
Well, I would have been back and forth. I don't know, because I guess when we knew that it was sinking, I guess we all ran around every place. I don't remember. But I do remember that of just stepping across from one to, so I must have stepped from the boat over to the barge. That is not good.
Well, that's very interesting. I didn't realize that you had been on.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at that time, those boat excursions and things were very popular and fun. And so we were lucky that time, in a way, that Mother let us go.
Yes. Adam was with you.
Yes. Well, it would have all worked the same way, I think. I remember someone, Mrs. Flynn, I believe it was, that lived down here on Center Street, tried to get in out through a window and wanted to take her umbrella with her. And I think it got caught somewhere or other. And then, of course, my husband, Milton, because that was before I knew who he was on. And another boy, Harry Tucker, I think. But I can remember, of course, they could swim. It didn't mean anything to them. And I remember Milton being on the barge when it turned over. But it didn't bother him because,
You swam, but
yes,
you caught it.
But
You said you knew the guard.
oh yes.
They lived across on Center Street. And you remember when she had the library book?
Oh yes, I remember that. before this building. But in some article that I read in the paper when it was, talking about the library, they didn't mention a building being there. They mentioned the other places that the library was before 1900. But see, my grandparents lived in the house right next to where do you remember that big house? Well, no, you wouldn't. But there was a big house right next to this little house where the library, where I remember the library first being. And then there was a vacant lot. I mean, it was in space. And I know in 1900 or about that, because it was after I lived up here, but I used to go down to my grandparents and visit a lot. And that's when the library was being built. Would have been in 1900. And of course the Garth. I think Mr. Garth must have died a few years before that. You know why I remember that? I wouldn't have been old enough to sense it, but Mrs. Garth must have given these, the chimes, not chimes, but on the, when did she give those, do you know?
I think about 1800.
Okay, that makes it right. Because the Episcopal Church, I remember we kids, da-da-dee-dee, John Garth is dead. Long live John Garth. I just remember that.
Oh, that's all right.
And of course, we were, and I used to see Mrs. Garth often, and then later on, I mean, when I was grown, I mean, I'd go out, she'd take me out riding with her, because they had a beautiful span of horses. And I know their man, I don't know, I guess he did a lot, was John, I forgot his name, but I know his name, John, because we all knew him, the colored man that they had. Well, it's gone now.
Do you remember the first automobile that your folks had?
Yes, because we didn't have one very early. A lot of people had them. We were still driving horses.
Remember what kind it was?
Well, I've forgotten now. I should know. Nothing that we hear now about now.
Different make.
Yeah, more of an old. It wasn't too much.
Did you drive the car at the time?
I wasn't a very good driver. I drove just because it was necessary to do so. But I really didn't like to, and I was not a good driver. Because I still like to drive horses, even after that.
When was the last time you did drive?
Well, it would have been, I don't know, of course, before I was married, before 1925, before I was married.
There should
I'm
be
sure of that.
a lot more opportunities.
Well,
I don't think I'll ever
after
have an
that,
opportunity.
I wouldn't have had any occasion. I wouldn't have had a horse. I mean, after.
Are we causing you to talk too much?
I haven't talked this much in 10 years.
Well, maybe we ought to stop. Maybe
Well,
we'll
I don't know what it is
Well,
you
you
do
have
with all.
your,
What do you do with these things?
Well, we're going to write this up, and Roberta will write it up.
And will you leave out some silly things? That'll be good.
And
We didn't hear anything.
no.
Well, I
The
know,
way
but
we live
really,
is silly.
the trouble is now when people are apt to make me say something, some of the tourists. Well, now I don't like to do that.
We're not going to publish anything.
No, well-
This is not for public consumption. But when all of us are gone, this is going to be available to students, historians down the line of things that happened in time.
Well, of course, I'm sure people would write things about the fun things, like well, there's both the circuses, but to me, the street fairs and things like that, that a small town has. That is, you don't get that same feeling in a larger place. And Hannibal had all of that.
Yeah, that's right. This
Park,
is
had the Park Theater. How many?
Park Theater?
How many towns had that?
Park Theater, and even the band concerts in the park. And the park had a iron, railing all the way around it. A lot of people didn't know that. It had a
The big
fence.
fence around it.